Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Introducing NPM Enterprise. My name is Danielle Wombolt, and I'll be your moderator. I work on the marketing team here at NPM, and I'm excited to be hosting today's session. I'm pleased to introduce today's speaker, Dave Bloom. Dave is a solution architect here at NPM. Before I hand it over to Dave, I have a few housekeeping items to cover about the presentation in the BrightTalk webinar platform. First, today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session, and it is accessible through the same link you're using now. We've also added some attachments where you'll find today's slides, as well as the NPM blog and upcoming webinars. Next, we'd love to hear from you during today's presentation. If you have a question for Dave, please feel free to send it through the Ask the Question tab on the bottom of your player. We'll be answering questions at the end of the session, but please feel free to submit your questions at any time. If we don't get to your question during today's webinar, we will be sure to follow up with you afterwards. Now over to Dave.
Thanks, Danielle. So welcome, everyone. Thanks for attending today's webinar. Today, we're going to present to you our new product, NPM Enterprise, an private version of the public NPM registry based on the public code base. It has the same functionality and features that you would experience on the public registry, but includes extra security and administrative features that are necessary for large enterprise deployments. So rather than take you through a presentation around this, I want to show you these features and talk to you and take you through a demonstration of the product today. So let me go ahead and share my screen. So what I'm showing you right now is something you guys are probably pretty familiar with. This is the NPM.js public website, and the experience is probably something you guys have seen quite a bit. NPM Enterprise is based on the same code base, and it provides that same experience that the public website provides. So when I navigate over here, the experience is exactly what your developers or anyone who has used NPM or the NPM public registry experiences. And when I mean that, the nice part about this, and when I say that the registry is similar, what I'm talking about is all of the features that we have in that public registry are available to you in this private registry. And the way we're doing that is making it so this private registry can be your one-stop location for discoverability of both your private and public NPM packages. Because when I go ahead and search or do a search on NPM Enterprise, it provides the same level of discoverability as the public site. However, it prioritizes your private packages in the search. So if I go ahead and search for this term, even though there's an exact match in the public registry, you can see at the top it's found a private version or a package in my private registry that has this same name. So what we're doing here is we're combining the search results with the public registry with your private registry, promoting your private products and making that taking that level of discoverability that we've built into that public registry and bringing it into a more enterprise fashion. And that extends to how we index those that search information. So much like the public registry, the private registry is not just grabbing package names. We're indexing the README files as well so that you can search, so that discoverability of packages becomes a lot easier. Everyone's experienced this in the public registry. This brings that same functionality to a private registry for that enterprise. And you can see it continues on the functionality. Search for the word semaphore. Semaphore isn't even in this private package's actual title, but it is in the README file. And because it found it in my private registry, even in the README file, it promoted it as one of the top search results in our discoverability here. Now, the package detail screen and the experience in the web page is exactly as you would expect from NPM Enterprise. If I click on a private package, you will see that we still contain all of the additional information, the dependencies that the package works with, any other packages that are using it, and the versioning information. All of this is available for your private packages as well as the public packages in that search. So you have both that, you have that accessibility, again, you know, in one location, aiding that kind of level of discoverability that you have. As far as the user experience goes beyond that, the web page is exactly as our public site is. However, you do have the ability in the enterprise site to add an unlimited number of organizations or package scopes. So in your organization, you can have as many as you want. From a user profile experience, we support the same kind of experience that you would get on the package site, and I'll show you later in the demo, we do support administrative standpoint that make this a little easier to manage for large enterprises. Anyone who's familiar with NPM knows how our token management works, but it's the exact same for NPM Enterprise, so this isn't a different experience for you. You're going to get in here, you're going to have the ability to create a token both through the web page and through the CLI client, just like you always have. You can generate both read and publish or read-only tokens, and you can, again, revoke them from this location as well. You can see all your tokens and revoke them from the web page. You can do it from the CLI just like you would in the public registry as well. So within the organizations, it is something that, again, you should, if you've ever used NPM with scoped packages, you might have seen this before. But within NPM Enterprise, you have the ability to manage access to your package amongst both your private organizations and public publishing. So in this particular case, these are all organizations in our private scope. And within the marketing organization, I have a couple of packages that I'm making available to other teams, and you can see that because they're not locked when I view them in this organization. However, private widget is still something that we're working on in marketing, and this is only visible to members of the marketing team. So this gives you a way to collaborate across an enterprise organization where different teams can have different organizations and make packages available for discoverability based on when they're ready to release with the larger organization. The management of the organization is as you would expect from NPM. We have the members of the organization. I happen to be an owner of this organization, so I have control over the permissions of my members. And then within an organization, I have role-based access. So we have our default developer team, and I can create multiple teams with different roles and levels of access to this package. So if I wanted to create teams with read-only access to my packages, I could easily do that and add users to those teams who don't necessarily need to be publishing into this particular organization. So this looks exactly like NPM, the public NPM site, but one of the key differences here is NPM Enterprise is actually a single tenant environment running on your own Google Kubernetes cluster for each deployment. So each customer who would launch with NPM Enterprise gets a private single tenant NPM repository that allows them to search both their private packages and the public repository. All their data, all their information is in this single tenant instance, and it doesn't join with any other tenants. The data is encrypted at rest. All your packages are encrypted at rest. So it provides that extra level of security that you really need in a more enterprise environment. The other nice piece about NPM Enterprise is it doesn't change how you use the NPM CLI either. So all of the features and functionalities of the NPM CLI that exist with the NPM public site still exist with NPM Enterprise. So features like audit still work in the enterprise version. So if I am going ahead and working on NPM, it is pretty much the exact same experience. The big difference is I have to change the registry I'm pointing at. You guys have probably seen this before, but if I change my registry to point at this registry, and as you can see, I have a unique URL for this as well. So NPM Enterprise customers get a custom URL for their instance, and they'll point their NPM CLI client at that custom URL. The difference between the website and the registry is just the term www changes to the term registry. So now you guys can see I'm pointing at this public private registry now, and if I log in, I will log in to that private registry. Now it's going to come up and it's going to prompt me for my login information. I will go ahead and enter my password here. Log in. It's going to ask me what type of token I think I need. I'm going to want to read and publish because I'm going to publish from this CLI, and I'm going to go ahead and log into the CLI. Now that I've logged in, it's actually updated my NPM RC file. It has the token I need for communication with this registry and the registry that I'm going to be communicating with. So I can start to work with this instance of NPM Enterprise. So I'm going to show you what I mean by some of the functions that wouldn't necessarily be available with other private repos still continue to work with NPM Enterprise, like NPM Audit. So if I do an NPM install of this particular package, it's going to run, and it's going to grab this down, and it's going to come up, and it's going to actually tell me that it found a low severity vulnerability. This is functionality, security functionality from our audit. And what we're trying to do here is we're trying to move this information further up the development chain. So developers have an eye into this and can fix these issues before it even makes it into a CI build process or anything like that. So it helps things progress more smoothly. So I have a low severity vulnerability. What is it? If I run NPM Audit, it'll tell me. So I run that functionality, and it comes back and it tells me there's an issue with the version of merge I'm using. How do I know that? Well, I can go to the more info screen here, and it has the public advisory that we published for this particular issue. There was a prototype pollution issue with versions of merge before 1.2.1. So what I got to do is update to version 1.2.1. It actually told me that right here, right at the top, run npm install merge 1.2.1. Now, I can do that. I can just run that command myself, or I can run npm audit fix. And if there were multiple vulnerabilities found here, it would go across and it would fix, it would run all of the default or the resolution commands necessary to resolve these different vulnerabilities. So now when I go through this, it's going to find merge 1.2.1, it's going to update that, it's fixed the vulnerability, it scanned all the remaining packages, it doesn't find any more vulnerabilities, and I'm good to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to update, I'm going to patch my version of this package because obviously there was an issue with it before. Yep. I got to learn, make sure I spell my words correctly here. There we go. We're up to the next increment. We're going to publish it back to my registry, private registry here. Go ahead and do that. And then if I return back after this publishes, if I return back to my private registry and I search around for the packages that I updated here, I can find that page. You can see it's been published version 1.2.1. It was just updated a few seconds ago, or 1.0.27, updated a few seconds ago. And even in my main activity feed, people can see that I've been updating that package. So very much the exact same experience as NPM in the public, the NPM public registry, with continued support for some of the extended features around security that are available. Now we have some additional pieces in this that really, so from a security standpoint, what we're doing here is we're providing you a single tenant instance with its own secure data store, and we're providing you all of the functionality of the NPM audit features in this private registry. From an enterprise administration standpoint, we're also making it a little bit easier for you to manage all of your users. So we have in the NPM Enterprise version an administrative panel that gives you a view into all of the users into your system. So you can see who the users are, what type of authentication they're using, when they were created, what their role is, so you can clean up your user environment and manage it more appropriately from an administrative standpoint. But in addition to that, we also provide SSO connectivity, because that's really what the enterprise is looking for. So we support login through single sign-on. We support the OIDC protocol right now for single sign-on connectivity. And this allows a large enterprise organization to really be able to take advantage of multiple users. You don't have the work of trying to add 150, 200 users to the system, or however many users you might have. Sometimes there's thousands of users that need to be added. So this is a feature that we really felt was a necessary item for really making enterprise something that is appropriate for larger organizations. So those are the kind of key areas that distinguish enterprise from the public registry. You're getting the same features and functionality, the same level of discoverability, the enhanced collaboration that public registry has provided to the public for your particular enterprise. You have a level of privacy and control over those different packages within your enterprise to allow your developers to find and collaborate, as well as expose code when it's ready to be exposed. So you can start promoting a lot more code reuse in your organization, much like the public registry has done just in general for the public. But at the same time, you're getting an extra level of security with the system. You're getting that extra single tenant environment. You know your requests are coming through this particular system. You can track the packages and the information that is coming into your enterprise. All of your private packages are in a separate data store. There's no multi-tenant scenario like a scoped organization in our public registry. Everything that you create, all of your code lives in its own environment, segregated from anyone else's. It's all encrypted at rest and very much protected. And on top of that, because you're using the real NPM registry code base, you're able to continue to use our audit functionality to maintain scans for vulnerability farther up the development chain than at your CI build time or deployment time. And then finally, for larger organizations, you have that extended user management that you might need. If you're not dealing with 10 users and you're dealing with thousands of users, you don't want to need to invite each one of them separately to your particular NPM organization. You have SSO control. You can tie into your company's SSO system, and you have that functionality easily at hand for managing your users. So that's really the overview of NPM Enterprise. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen right now, hopefully. And ask if there are any questions. So let me take a look. So I see a couple of questions in here, and this is a couple of, so let me go ahead and go through them. We've got quite a few of them on here. So why does NPM audit and filtering, et cetera, work better than my existing third-party tooling for security scans? I think one of the main reasons is because we have the entire resource of our JavaScript community. You know, we have something like 11 million users in that community that all work to help us identify and report vulnerabilities, as well as our own scanning tools. And we have a lot of expertise in JavaScript specifically. So we tend to find these vulnerabilities a little bit earlier than people, and they're in our database a little bit earlier. So that's one area, but the other area is because NPM Audit runs as part of the CLI utility, you can discover these vulnerabilities sooner in your build process. So rather than discovering it after you check in your code, you discover it before you check in your code, and you don't have any issues with your check-in once you do it. So we have another question, an easy one for here. So how long does it take to get set up? Actually, because it's running in a Kubernetes, it's a containerized system running in Kubernetes, doesn't take us long at all to get it set up. It might take us longer to get the paperwork done. So it's a very quick setup that we can have spun up for someone within a couple of days. So one of the other questions I see in here is, does Artifactory have the same search functions as NPM Enterprise? So I know Artifactory has the ability to search NPM packages, but Artifactory search only searches the package name. The biggest difference is the search functionality in NPM Enterprise is indexing the README file as well. So we have we're searching a broader, when you do a search in our tool in NPM Enterprise, it's searching more broadly. It makes things more easy to discover. You don't always know the name of the package you're searching for, but you might know some of the functionality that's listed in the description, and that makes it a lot easier to find. So I have a question here. Are you able to whitelist or blacklist certain packages for your organization? This is actually a feature that we are looking to release very soon, a package filtering capability. I think the first functionality is coming out around whether is allowing you to restrict certain packages based on vulnerabilities. And soon after that, whitelisting and blacklisting is going to become part of this enterprise product. Another question, do you have an on-prem solution? Right now, NPM Enterprise is only a SaaS solution. So currently, we do not have an on-prem solution for NPM Enterprise. So another question, my company uses JFrog Artifactory, which doesn't work great for my team. Can we use NPM Enterprise and Artifactory, or is it a one or the other solution? Actually, we are fairly complementary to an artifact managing tool like Artifactory because Artifactory focuses on a broad array of languages that allow you to manage those different artifacts from those particular languages. NPM focuses specifically on JavaScript and has more functionality around allowing that kind of discoverability within JavaScript. So it's kind of a little bit of a different level of functionality. We see ourselves farther up the chain more as allowing you to discover the libraries and pieces that you're going to use for your code rather than a place where you're storing you're necessarily always storing your code artifacts. We can be used as that, but we have much more features farther up the food chain than just being able to store different artifacts. Many people use both us and Artifactory combined in their workflows. So last question I've got in here, unless anyone wants to add some more, what sort of security features does NPM Enterprise offer today? And are there any new features planned? So I talked a little bit about the ability to filter packages. So we do plan to have the ability to filter based on vulnerability levels, so types of vulnerabilities. We have the ability, we do also plan to have the ability to filter based around license types. So you're going to be able to both report on the types of licenses and packages that your organization has brought inside, as well as apply restrictions around those packages. Those are upcoming features for the product. I think that actually answered a couple of the questions that just popped up as well. License type and compliance is definitely one of the areas that we had actually targeted when we were thinking of enterprise. So any other questions out there? All right, I'm not seeing anything else show up. So Danielle, back over to you to close this out.
Awesome, thank you, Dave. As mentioned earlier, today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session and is accessible through the same link you're using now. We've also added some related material through the attachment tab on your screen. Finally, if you like what you heard today, please tweet out your thoughts on today's webinar using NPM facts. Thank you for joining.